welcome back to Language Travel Adoptee. Happy New Year. Thank you for joining me again today. I'm excited to talk about my German, specifically how I learned it within a year. And what I mean by learn is actually up to speaking and listening in C1 and then reading and writing in V2. I'm telling you this from a perspective of learning it at 17 to 18, around that time. And keep in mind, this was my very first time learning a foreign language, so I didn't even really pre-plan all of this. This was just how it kind of turned out. If you ask me, I learned German the best and most effective out of all the languages that I learned after that without having it being pre-planned. So let's get right into it. Number one is I knew exactly what my motivation was within the very beginning of learning the language. So what I mean by this is I wanted to escape all of my teenage problems. I was, again, as I said, about 18, 17, and I thought that going to a foreign country would somehow take my problems away. And that didn't prove to be correct. However, that was a really big motivation for me back when I pretty much didn't know that that was not a reason to move abroad. My second motivation was that I learned German, or I at least started learning it, from moving from high school into college. That was for me a really big motivator in itself because I knew I had to take a language entrance exam. And this was where if you did pass enough of the language exam, you could also get credit for those classes and basically not have to take them and not waste your time. So I was aiming to skip the 100 level and the 200 level classes that were offered at my university. So 100 level courses in college universities in the US are usually aimed at A1, A2 level, so very basic, and the 200 level classes are actually aimed at more intermediate learners. And those levels are usually meant to help a student learn the language. 300 level and above, you are expected to know a lot of the language in order to actively use it in class, actively speak it, actively write it and read it, especially because a lot of those are like literature and history courses. Number two, the strategy that really helped me with my German and learning it quickly is that I stayed within the same resources. That does not mean that I never changed resources. I stuck with Living Language, beginner to intermediate level, which I got at the library. I didn't have to pay anything for it. And I stuck with that up until I had actually finished it. I think having that consistency within a book really helped me to get into the intermediate level just in terms of grammar. Once I felt that I was outgrowing that book, I turned to Schaum's grammar, which goes a little bit more into the grammar cases, if you will, for those of you who are learning German. I also used Fun, Easy Languages, and then it did have at the very end a section where they mixed all of those skills up. All of these vocabulary categories, you could pick whatever you wanted to do, comes with really nice pictures, really cute. It was basically all free. I think you actually have to have a subscription now in order to get to the higher levels. I finished all 5,000 of those words, I think within the year that I was learning German. There were a few words that were not very useful, but most of those words were super useful, and it really helped me in no time really activate my vocabulary after hearing them over and over again and really interacting with the words through that app in that way. Speaking of vocabulary, I will give you an insight into the very first vocabulary cards that I used. I think I got them for a Christmas present. I think I reviewed them way more than I should have. I definitely am glad that I reviewed them some instead of not at all, because it really got me into the habit of really having a consistent routine. Within the first 7 months of learning German, I actually switched over to Quizlet to be a little bit more technologically advanced. I kind of listened to the audio that is included with Quizlet flashcards like a podcast that we use today. It would literally just be reviewing all of the flashcards. I think it's a pretty robot animated voice, so the pronunciations are not always 100%, but they are pretty accurate. After finding out the vocabulary words that I would need personally in my situation, then I started implementing those into Quizlet, and then I would hear them on repeat all the time. And I'm not kidding you, I would play this like in the middle of my dinner or my lunch. I was depressed, you guys, in college, and I had a lot of time to listen to things, and I think that helped me as well, just kind of get through the day, if I'm being honest. Number three that really helped me was that I stayed in the same place and studied around the same time of day when I was learning German. Definitely for the first 6 months, because I was still in high school, I was about to transition to college, but I would, after I finished all my homework, go to computer chairs and have my little German notebook and my German flashcards, and I would review 40 minutes consistently every day. And it's not something I had to really think about because it became so much of a habit. You know, you have to go to class, and I had to go to that study hall, as we call it, to just do my homework, and it kind of just fit into a routine for me. Of course, we are creatures of habit and association, so I think that really nailed down for me what a consistent environment for language learning looked like. Number 4, I drilled cases from the beginning. German is such a grammatical language that for you to actually speak it well, getting into more intermediate territory, is really making sure that you drill the cases. I know that there were a lot of drills in the Schaum grammar book that I had mentioned. I also just found a lot of German teachers online who would make up certain sentences or whatever, and I would put the cases just into the sentences. I tried to use the cases more actively in my head when I was talking to myself, but I think that really seeing them on paper, seeing the corrections that I received from either teachers online or the book when it showed me the correct answers really helped me study the cases. That's something that I would recommend everyone to do. If there is something super grammatical about the language, really focus on that instead of combining it with maybe talking at first, because you do need to get a good grip on them before moving into more advanced territory. My 5th tip, falling in love with music of your target language. It was 7 years ago, but Joris, he already had a single out. He was really popular on, I think, German radio, but listening to his music had a lot of really great vocabulary that I kind of mirrored as I listened to the music. This can be a form of shadowing, which is really just watching a video or listening to an audio of someone speaking and you repeat what they say in real time. But after that, I would actually use Google, look up all of his text and lyrics, and literally memorize the whole thing. And this really helped me in a very natural way see, okay, these are the new, more advanced grammar structures that I could use in the language to have more of a flexible command, learning how to manipulate the words in different ways, and also vocabulary, as I mentioned before. So as you can probably tell, I was very grammar focused. I don't really think I've talked a lot about speaking to yourself. And to be honest, I'm not a 100% advocate for speaking from day one. Both methods have worked for me. I spoke Russian from day one to learn it, but I also waited about 6 or 7 months with German to actually speak it with a real person. And before that, I was just speaking to myself. When I finally made the transition to go from high school to college, that was really when I noticed that I needed to speak, and I had to speak in class. After I took that entrance exam, I had actually landed in the 300 level class with all of these upperclassmen who were in their last year of college. I was completely inspired by them, but I had to make sure that I could speak on their level or almost at their level when I was in class. And that leads me to my 6th tip, is always be surrounded by people who inspire you and who are better than you. And obviously these people had been in German class for about 3 or 4 years before me. I had only learned German for about 7 months, but it was a really big learning curve, and I came to respect the work that they had put in for themselves. They had a Kaffeestunde, coffee hour, every Friday, so that students who were learning German at my university could participate and just use the language very casually. I could listen and talk to these people that were so inspiring to me, learn all of their phrases that they in context used. So that was a really fun way to pick it up. Number 7 is fall in love with a language partner. How serious do I mean that? I would say halfway, because how fast I learned German, I had a really good friend in German that helped me a lot. I mean, we would speak for up to 5 hours even between German and English, and eventually the language was just used as a vehicle for communication and connection. It wasn't really about exchanging languages anymore, especially for someone who had never studied or really spoke another language. I mean, I grew up monolingual, really knowing that you can use another language, you can think in another language, and you don't have to fall in love with them, but I think it's great to have a consistent language partner in any case. Lastly, bout of consistency combined with breaks has really helped me with my German, especially in the first year. The common advice is to always be consistent. I don't believe in that. I think that, and I know this from experience, if I try to be consistent every single day, life is going to kick you in the butt at some point. So taking time for yourself after you have learned a language for a little bit of time, a few months, and knowing that there's something going on in your personal life, or you just know that you're burnt out from the language, because that can definitely happen, then what you need to do is take a break. As long as it is followed by a period of time where you are pretty consistent every week, that combination really balances itself out so that you don't feel too burned out at the end. I personally took about a 2 to 3 month break from German after learning it for about 5 months. I really got more focused on my goal, first immediate goal, right, of passing this language exam at my future university, and I managed to get into the advanced level class even after taking a 2-month break from the language. I was, as I said, very depressed when I was in my first and almost second year of college. Language learning itself was an indicator for something bigger outside of me and something that I could really focus my time on. But of course, there were times during my language learning where I just wanted to take a break. There's nothing wrong with that either. It helps you along the way, I promise. So don't feel guilty. At what point did I think I was actually fluent? I honestly think it was during the Sprachwochenende, but it was really aimed at total immersion. We had gone with my professor. There was a German native speaker from Germany and then another one from Austria who was also with us, which really got me into approaching people, any person, including the native speakers, during that retreat, and really engaging in conversation with them. I think after that, I was like, wow, like I feel the words coming to me just really quickly. I mean, they just come, and I am starting to remember some of those phrases that I listened to time and time again through Quizlet that were a little bit more advanced. I can finally use them in an active way during the conversation. During this whole Sprachwochenende, we had found ourselves in different situations that called for different vocabulary, like hiking or cooking, playing games even. Also because my professor did an evaluation of my level in order for me to be screened for the study abroad process to go to Germany. So that was really reassuring. I think a bonus tip would be getting some kind of mentor, and those sorts of people sometimes walk into your life at the right time, like they did with me. Sometimes you're going to have to personally and intentionally seek them out. Because for me, I really loved having my professor there. He was the first one who delivered my language entrance exam for German, and he was there to see as I progressed through a pretty hard class and really foster that kind of encouragement that sometimes you feel like you need from someone else, honestly, to keep on going. As a reflection, I did a lot on my own initiative. I'm not really a 100% believer in that we can learn languages all by ourselves. I did a lot on my own by finding resources that others provided me, but I also had my language partner. I had a mentor, complemented what I was doing on my own in terms of mastering the cases, mastering the grammar, mastering the vocabulary with all the strategies I've showed you so far. And also with this newfound confidence, with language learning came a lot of language insecurities. If you are curious about what mine are, please be sure to click on the next video to not miss that. Let me know if you enjoyed this video by hitting a like and subscribe button if you do want to follow more of my content. We'll catch up with each other next week with a new video for sure. Until then, take care, mach's gut, and tschüss.